The number 12 team in the Big Ten last year was the Maryland Terrapins. Disappointing year for sure for Kevin Willard and company. I said last year that a success for them would be winning a tournament game, which a lot of people pushed back on. A lot of Maryland fans were saying Sweet 16 or bust, which I thought was insane. And the amount of people who are just completely out on Kevin Willard, or at least are paying lip service to that idea after year 2, is wild to me. Year 1, that team overperformed, hit like their 99th percentile outcome, won a tournament game against West Virginia, and then lost to, who'd they lose to? Alabama? UConn? I forget. I think it was, I don't know. It doesn't matter. I'm pretty sure it was Alabama though, because they were the number 1 overall seed. Anyway, I'm getting off track here. Maryland is another one of these teams that last year three-point shooting was not their forte. One of the 15 worst, maybe even one of the 10 worst three-point shooting teams in the entire country by percentage. It was painful to watch them just hoist shots off the backboard. Jahmir Young is gone. He was a true number 1 option, one of the best Maryland players we've seen in the last 15 years. Jahmir Young was awesome. And he was the only guy that opposing teams really had to game plan for at all. We'd constantly get into these late game situations where it was so obvious the ball was going to Jahmir Young. He'd get triple teamed, and either he would hoist up a contested shot, he'd give the ball to somebody who wasn't going to make a shot at all, or just a shot wouldn't get up in the first place because just of all the pressure that was concentrated on Young. Losing him is a big deal. And I'm not going to sit here and pretend that it's not, but I am pretty optimistic, cautiously optimistic, that Kevin Willard did a really good job in the portal replacing not only Young, but also making up for some of the issues that plagued last year's team. So perimeter shooting is one of those things. You bring in Selton Miguel, you bring in Jacoby Gillespie, 2 guys who can shoot the rock, and then you just kind of count on some natural progression from a guy like Deshaun Harris-Smith. Rodney Rice is here, who at least can shoot in theory. Chance Stevens is coming off an injury, but he's supposed to be a knockdown shooter. His name's literally Sniper. If he can't shoot the ball, I'm going to be upset. And the defense is going to be there. This is a team that is currently the top defense in the Big Ten per Ken Palm's preseason projections. That's something I'm very confident will return. It's a defense that's anchored by Julian Reese. You know exactly what Julian Reese is going to give you. He's going to be a double-double machine. He's going to at least give you 10 and 8 every night, which you love to see. My thing with Julian Reese is okay, you're entering the closing years of your collegiate career. And up to this point, I think Julian Reese has always had the potential to be one of the best centers in the Big Ten. He's always had, I think, that as his upper end outcome. And with Zach Edey gone, right, with some of these great bigs leaving the conference, I think that potential is absolutely still there. But I need to see him step into that because it feels like for the past couple of years, he could have been the 3rd best big in the conference, but no matter who's there, who leaves, who shows up in the Big Ten, it feels like he's always the 6th best big in the conference, no matter what. No matter who else is on other teams. He's one of the most experienced guys in the conference at this point. He's been around the block for a while now. He should be able to just physically dominate some of these other teams who have questions in their front court. Obviously, Umar Ballo's here. I think we're expecting something big from at least one of the bigs that Purdue has. Beyond that, it's dude, you should be one of the best bigs in the conference. So I like what I see from Maryland on paper. I do. I think defensively they'll be really good. I think they did address the shooting problems from last season. I don't know. Am I crazy for being optimistic about this team, Alex? You tell me.
No, No, we should all be optimistic about our teams.
Okay, okay.
That's what the preseason is for.
Sure,
Um,
sure.
I don't know. As an outside observer, I may question a little bit if this team totally addressed its shooting concerns. Like last year was really
I know,
really
I
boring.
know, I know, I know.
Like that.
I know.
Oh goodness.
Yeah, not good.
So respectfully, it can only go up. It can't really get much worse.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
and Derek Queen is a monster. He
Yeah, I didn't even
rocks.
bring him up. Just
Yeah,
casually, like, we have a 5-star freshman on
he
our team.
rocks.
Yeah.
Again, I think I'm overusing fascinated, but very intrigued to see how a Reese Queen front court complements each other, especially with neither being a shooter.
Yes.
And teams
Yes.
already probably, I mean, I guarantee you, teams in the non-conference are going to come in disrespecting Deshaun Harris-Smith. And I don't know if it's disrespecting so much as it's more of a proof that we need to guard you out there type thing,
Yeah.
and not keep you from barreling downhill towards the rim.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so, yeah, I mean, I definitely think this is like a top 50, 55 team in the country, and
Hmm.
probably top half of the Big Ten, or right around hovering around like that 9 to 11 range, which is still going to be good and
Hmm.
flirting with the bubble. Like the defense will be there, and
Yeah.
in the same way that I think you talked about Wisconsin winning like grimy, ugly games, I think that could be Maryland again.
Sure.
No,
Yeah.
like I don't know if I'm off base on that, but
I don't know that you are. I'm holding out hope that the offense looks at least a little bit more competent this season than it did last year because we have more
yeah,
guys who I think can
are
make something
competent.
happen. Yeah.
Yeah,
The the two bigs on the floor question, I am going to give them the benefit of the doubt that it'll work until they show me that it can't. Because I think
mm,
Julian Reese has a lot to offer. I think Derek Queen's awesome, just super skilled. The one part of it that gives me pause is the spacing of it all, coming off a year where the 3-point shooting was absolutely abysmal. And you bring in guys who are really good at getting to the rim in Gillespie, and you bring back Deshaun Harris-Smith, who, like, I think he's best when he's able to attack downhill. How does that look when you have two bigs on the floor? Like, is that just, like, gone now? Um, so that's the one thing that gives me pause with the two big fit. But it's like, if we're going to put two bigs on the floor, I don't know that there's two bigs, like, I would rather have, across the Big Ten, I don't know. I mean, I understand, like, there's the Renaud Ballo front court for sure, but if you're going to try to make it work, I think these are the two guys that you can have and make it work, maybe. We'll see. Derek Queen at least offers the potential of stretching the floor. Maybe. Kinda. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe he'll
maybe.
surprise us.
Yeah.
Maybe he'll
I mean,
surprise us.
I think that's a really optimistic
Oh,
outlook.
yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Admittedly. Here's what the final thing I'll say on Maryland. I think a success for this team, and I said it on the Two Pointers podcast when we went on. I think success for this team is just make the tournament, honestly. You have a lot of new faces. You're coming off a year where you missed the tournament. Just make the tournament. And if Kevin Willard can show that he can get there 2 out of 3 years, especially in this just disaster of a Big Ten, I'll be happy with that. And I think that should be what a success is. Because I think the expectations were a little too high last year. And I think that's a much more realistic bar to set given how last year went. Also, their non-conference schedule is cake. It is just miserably bad team after miserably bad team. So if they make the tournament, that means they did pretty well in conference play. Because I don't think the non-conference is really going to sway it one way or the other. Yeah, they have a game against Villanova, but, like, whatever. They have a game against Marquette. That's kind of like the highlight, I think, of their non-conference schedule. But if they make the tournament, it means they probably had an all right season when it comes to Big Ten play. So, yeah, I think make the tournament is a reasonable expectation. That's all I'll say on Maryland.